Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
One of the things to consider when we speak about going to space is what do we define the space as? And what do we see or what we consider as a space? We take a space in our physical body on this planet, and at the same time, within the structure of our physical body, there is another dimension of life which we call the soul of the man. And even though it lives within the space dimensions of the body of the man, has its own life and has its own line of communication. And what we define space, going to space, we already know the inner sanctum or the creator of our physicality travels the depth of the universe, has been the space travel all the time, has a line of communication with other parts of us, be it through dream we call it, or through subconscious, some people they call it, or we have the choice that physically move the physicality with its soul. In a way, we have a bird caged in the physicality of the body of man, and that bird is called the soul of the man. We can open that cage and let it loose at the point of death. When the operation of this cage rots away, and it cannot hold together, and this beautiful bird becomes free. Still, it takes life in the universal dimension, because it has a life. It exists on its own. Or we can carry the cage in a box and take it anywhere. I can take a bird cage in the car, I can take a bird cage in my hand and walk around the park. It doesn't change the entity and existence of that bird. Still a bird, still sings, still communicates with other birds in the park. And this is how our soul is. So we give option. Those who understand the process of the creation can take that cage, that bird, out of the cage and free it, because we trusted it come back in. It's very much when you have a parrot at home, you open the door, you let him fly around the house, and he comes back again and he goes in the cage. Because you trust it. It knows that's where it belongs to. And this is the process that we have made an option to man. The soul of the man is that bird, but is encaged in physicality of body of man. And for the first time, man knows, man can see that it's him who hasn't trusted the bird to be freed. And it has come the time that he does not need to see the cage to break up, to rust, that the bird can fly out, or by accident open the cage's door is open and the bird flies out. That accident is when we die on the street. The bird cage opens up. That bird still gets freed. But now we are teaching how the man has control over this door of the cage. And he trusts that the soul will come back to the body. Or the bird will stay, that it can create that atmosphere of the home, the cage. This is the problem we have, and this is what we call it different ways of traveling. But to be able to free that bird without accident, or when the cage cracks, rust, and we call it death, we are teaching how to be able to control, to trust that that bird, when we release it, can come home, or can make a home that we can go to. When my children were young, 4 or 5 years old, they wanted a bird, a cockatoo. I bought them a cockatoo. And this bird in the cage was very young, few weeks old when we got him. And we used to let it free in the house. He knew he goes back in and he sleeps there and he lays egg there. And it came to the point, because of the diseases carried, we had to, the doctors told us, this bird cannot stay in the house because it's causing problem in the house, health problems. So we decided that we loved the bird. We didn't want to let it go, it was part of us. So we decided, if we let it free, it will die, because he didn't know how to look after himself, because he was hand-fed. We decided we'd take him to a sanctuary, and we give it to a sanctuary to be kept. We carried the cage across a park, and as we were walking to go to the sanctuary in the park to be given to them, an old lady saw us. She says, "Oh, what a beautiful bird. We said we have a problem, we love him, but if you leave him here, we don't know if you see him." She says, "I'll look after it. Give it to me. You can come and see it anytime you like." And it was just like a gift. So we got the old lady in the car, we went to her house, we put the cage there, we showed them how to look after the bird, and the bird was free again in the room. And every now and then, children said, "Papa, can we go and see him?" So we called the lady, we go and see him, and the bird is there. And it was a new home, it was our home. And this is how the soul of the man should be. Is trusting that where he goes, he can make a home for us. So in this process, we are teaching different ways of freeing the bird, or carrying the cage. The bird is still there. If you want to carry a cage and go somewhere, you get in the car, that's your spaceship. Still the cage is there and the bird inside. The cage is the body of the man and the bird is the soul of the man. Because we haven't trusted that we get the bird back. We carry the cage in the spaceship. Or there is another line of teaching, which is the understanding the structure of the cage, that you can make the cage not to rot, that then it frees the bird, but it can open up and you can carry the bird is free, you don't need to fuel it, you don't need to do anything, it travels the space of the room, the space of the garden, the space of the city, and it comes back home again. In a way, when we teach about the soul of the man, is in getting the man to trust himself. And to trust himself, he has to become detached. He has to come detached from physicality, detached from the wealth, detached from everything else. That the wealth is within me, not belonging to me. And this is where every man makes a mistake. In many of the teachings I have referred, if you understand that you can put the soul of the man to act with the soul of physicality of the man, you can make anything you like. The soul of the man is the sun, and the soul of physicality in the palm of the hand of the man is the earth. You move it in the direction, you create water, you create food, but you don't need to have it. It creates the energy that the physicality of the man can absorb. We give the earth in the hand, in the palm of the man. He creates what he needs, he takes what he needs from it. Then, if you understand this, you allow the soul of the man to carry the soul of the physicality of the man with it, and whenever it comes, it makes that hand, that palm, 1,000 meter, 1 meter, in a cage of physicality or in a cage of non-dimension. So, it's not methods of flight, it's the method of man understanding his own potential, his own grace. So, because we have so many people who are so physically attached, we teach about the spaceship for years. This is what it was. They still wanted to see they can get into something. But, as I said, I teach for the universe, not for the man. What we teach in the dimension of soul of the man, many travelers of the universe which hear the soul of me are educated, they understand what they missed. But as this is the last time we bring a messenger on earth, we teach everything for mankind to carry. All the rules are in the book. There shall be no more messengers. It's for man to translate knowledge. Scientifically, and then through the understanding of the soul of the man. What we call theology, ethics. Ethics of using the science in a way that does not harm no one, but it implies and applies the survival of the others. I was talking about this a few days ago, that there is a paper written by me, the station of the scientist as a prophet. The prophets we call Muhammad, Christ or anybody, are for the soul of the man, conduct of the behavior. Scientists like beautiful Tesla and others are to elevate the same, but the physicality of the man. This time we have put the two together in one go, then there is no difference. We teach the ethics, the soul conduct and physicality. It's for the man to understand where the two merge and when it's needed to be done. The totality which counts, not the individuality. What you can serve counts, not what serves you. So in this way, if you are physical, we have given you the spaceship, all these reactors. If you have moved in the dimension of understanding part of it, you have the dynamic system, you get some energies, you put a glass of water, you mix the energy and something else together, you're still the camel bird. You put the orange, take the energy, but you still want that the physicality that you're doing something with it, you drink the water. And for the soul of those who understand the totality, then they don't need the cage. They're the free bird. And this is the essence of all the teaching. It's not different ways of flight, is understanding the existence of the universe. Then if you travel with a spaceship, who do you see? The citizens of the universe in a physical dimension. If you travel with the soul that you can create the physicality, you take that out of the equation. You travel, but you know you have connection with everybody. It's very much, as I said once, it's like you get out of London and you go to New York. You're there on your own, but you still pick your phone and speak to the family in London. It's not finished. Now, the soul of the man, given the man the same opportunity. We teach for the time to come. And we teach from now till that time to come. And that time comes, is not anymore the end of the world, something will happen. It's the maturity of the one's understanding of his own creation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 428th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April 14th, 2022. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the Public Teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond, and I'll be a host today. And we are hosting Mr. Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation once again in these weekly series of Knowledge Seekers workshops. And I believe he's ready to go. Hello, Mr. Keshe, are you there?
Yes. Good morning, good day. As usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this series of Knowledge Seekers, series of Keshe Foundation from KF SSI. We welcome you back, and we try to, as usual, share knowledge, understand more, and to try to develop more understanding of the science of the universe than the science that the man has found. We have perfected more or less the knowledge of the matter state, and now we have entered the nursery of understanding the knowledge of the creation of the universe. Before we start teaching, there's a number of things that has to be said. As of today, if you are especially Portuguese, you have a direct translation on the Telegram in the background. And from next week, we have the other languages. If you are appointed by your organizations or by groups, the language to be there, you have to get in touch with the Keshe Foundation. And this becomes more what you call automatic. Rick can explain that more detail. This gives us a new facilities that you get simultaneous translation directly on the teaching and gets recorded, and then you can add it to it, or they can do transcribe to it. We try to expand this as the organization like Telegram make these facilities available for us to be able to use, to be able to reach more people in an easier way and simultaneously. On the other hand, today is the 14th of April, it's the day of Moja. And coincidentally happens to be on the Thursday. We celebrate this day as the day of Moja. And it's part of the important part of the Keshe Foundation program in space technology. We have extended the knowledge and understanding in a vast way over years. If you listen to this intro this morning and just look at the first title, the first images, it says Knowledge Seekers number 270. Multiplied by 2, that's 540. So we're in 440 something. It goes back 200, more than 40 years ago. We started teaching, bringing the knowledge of the soul, the existence of the soul, and how we can work with it. And we have developed it step by step over years. This is part of the separation between the past and the future for mankind. Stay the citizens of this planet or become members of the universal community by UFOs, or by understanding what we call the hidden energies, the hidden source within the man to achieve this. Many people go back into understanding more and more through the process of the interaction. It's like becoming a marathon runner. You're not born a marathon runner. You understand what can bring you and what you want to achieve, and you train for it. 1 kilometer for a few weeks, for a few months, then 2, then 3, then 1 day in the training, in the process of development of developing the right muscles, the right breathing technique, the right whatever, with the right coach to train you how to consume energy and release energy in different parts of the race.
You do your first marathon, and then you get that, what I call immense joy that you achieved. You did what was to be the marathon. To you, important. It could be anything, not just a marathon. Achieving in what you have worked for to achieve. Be the head of a company, you work for 20, 30 years to get to that point. Owning your own business, you develop the position that you have everything that when you achieve that point, you know how to manage. The understanding of the work of the soul of the man is the same. It doesn't come just by teaching. You have to understand how to, the way it needs to be done, the way you have to have the understanding of doing it, and then be able to be humble enough when you understood this achievement you made. Then you teach the others, and you perfect the process yourself. How I can go out of my dimension of the physicality where I still can see the physicality. I'm aware of it, but I'm free. I could do this at the age of 10, 11, 12 years old. But age of 12, 13, I perfected the art. I can leave. I could see the physicality on the bed. I could see my physicality sitting on the chair, but it was there. I'm going for a trip. I'm going to come back. Exploring the depth of the universe, trying to understand the position of the galaxies, trying to understand the movement of the fields, trying to see the hidden part which is not visual. This became an occupation. This became part of the life to understand the process. What I teach you is not theoretical, is what I have been through. And I know a number of knowledge seekers who have achieved it, but they cannot take it further. When you are detached, when you sit above and you see your physicality, and you can do it day in, day out. You can do it daytime, you can do it nighttime. Just to see, to perfect, what happened this time? Oh, one day I nearly fell down back into the physicality where I didn't want to go because I wanted to go somewhere else. This is not theoretical teaching. This is understanding there's another tool. I used to wake up in the morning and my father says, you got to go to school. And I said, how can I tell my father that I already know why am I going to school for? But I got in the car, I went to the school, he dropped me off, I learned the knowledge of the man. And through the dimension of the souls and what to be, I knew at the age of 12, 13, I need to be what I was brought to me for the knowledge of energy, fields, and nuclear. And if you meet anybody who knew me at that age, I always said, I want to become a nuclear physicist because that's the way to break through. And they used to laugh, young boy, now it's tradition. And I made it, I became, because my soul set me up that way. And when I look at the progress, the decision was made by the souls. I just followed, I just read the script. We all have that capability. It's just understanding the detachment. Understanding. Detachment is not that I'm going to live like a hermit, become detached. No, detachment, the way done before, going into exile and living on a stone for weeks and going through hunger is over. That was the way people could understand. You can live the most luxurious life. You can be the most educated man. You can be the professors. You can be the doorman. Understanding the work of the soul does not carry human paper certificate and job description. It's you who has to educate. And I always said, I never lived a poverty life. I don't live a poverty life. I live according to what suits for me to be in society where we can influence. You cannot go to be the head of the Keshe Foundation with an old banger, with their jeans and torn trousers and try to tell the professors, they just laugh. They just become a lunatic enough. When you go dressed as they are, more educated than they are, this is when they listen to you. This is the fear of what I call educated, especially in the scientific world, because now they understand they have no education compared to what you carry as a knowledge in gases, in evolution of the science of the field, and how we can extend this, how we can bring this to what we call to the front. You let the others do what they want to, but if your part, if your what I call ambition and target is to achieve that point, that you can travel with the dimension of the aircrafts, to carry the dimension of spaceship or the soul, it's you who makes that decision. And that decision made by you will frame you to the life of physicality in that position till you are aware of the work of the fields of the universe. I'm told many times, Mr. Keshe, you do this and you do that, but I don't do. Whatever I have thought, I have done. Whatever has happened is the way it was set to learn. As I said many times, we come to Earth to learn the ways of the life of physicality, that we do not fall when we go to another dimension with the soul in a dimension of physicality. We know what the fire does. We know how to transfer materials. So you cannot live in the dimension of soul and say, that's it. You have to understand what's the other end of the equation. If the soul energy goes in the dimension of the physicality, and then you become the holder of the life of the soul. It's the same as the book number 1, book number 2, and book number 3. Man has left the book number 2. Now we are teaching book number 3 and how you transmute between it. You cannot go from one to the other if you don't have the knowledge. Man has gained enough knowledge from the dimension of physicality for what we call the spirit, the soul of the physicality. And now we have taught and we teach the dimension of the soul. This way, between your soul and the soul of physicality, which is that light of transmutation, there is no messengers. There is no one to fool you. There is no one to take a message and translate it and change it the way they want. With a new understanding, with a new dimension of understanding the operation of the soul of the man and soul of physicality, which you live every day by it, which you don't realize, you have never realized how closely your soul of physicality and the soul of your body works together in everyday existence, then there can't be any mullahs, there can't be any rabbis, there cannot be any priest or any intermediary, because the only intermediary is you within yourself. This is where the day of promise has come. Promise of the freedom of the man from the shackles of abuse in the dimension of physicality, poverty, hardship, or abuse in the name of religion. Because now you can live in both dimensions. You are in charge. You are responsible for it. And you cannot blame no one. But you have to go through that training to become a marathon runner. Once you get addicted to become a marathon runner, it's very hard to stop. And some people lose their lives in the training because they don't get it right. They push it too far. They somehow cut the lines, formation and reality and the fact of point. The beauty of it is, we watch the marathon runners, New York, London, wherever, and we watch for 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours, seeing them struggling, seeing them enjoying, rejoicing to be the first to get to the end of the line, the second or whatever, or at least I managed to finish the London Marathon or New York Marathon or whatever. But what we don't see is the day before, the week before, the month before, the year before, what that marathon runner went through to get to this point. The training, the self-confidence, the things which are put in front of him, the injuries that he has to overcome, the failures that he has to, the things he has to sacrifice. Instead of going for a dinner party, tomorrow I have to run a marathon, forget about the dinner party that every family and everybody else is. This weekend, we remember the crucifixion of Christ as Easter in the Catholic Church and the following week in the Orthodox Church. What's the meaning of this process? That you just look at it, buy an egg, put a tree and some chickens and the chicks under the tree, and put some eggs in the garden for children to find, or in the Orthodox Christianity, boil some eggs and meet each other and see which one cracks under the head of another egg to win. But what is the real truth which is lost in this process of Christianity? The story of the crucifixion of Christ, the conversion of the physical to the dimension of the soul, and the turn of the soul back to physicality. Christ, as a man, went on the cross. He separated in that dimension on the cross to the dimension of the soul. Went from book 1 to book 3, using the transformation of life of the man. And then he transformed back to a man, coming up the cross and walked away. Man has taken it literally by word, but in fact, it's a teaching what you have in book 1, 2, and 3. Which way do you want to go? He completed the cycle in one day. Then it wasn't there. Then his soul flew. Why wasn't he there? Because the soul of the man took the dimension of physicality and became a man and traveled across to North Africa into northern France and Spain. Sorry, northern Spain and France border. So up to now, you learn it through mysticism. Now you learn it through science and understanding and technology, that you can become that Christ. You can become the man who can move to the state of the soul to go for a dimension of physicality, and from the dimension of the soul, come to physicality. This is what we say, the man with the knowledge we have given has reached the status of the prophet of the past. Because you can do scientifically what was done as a magician and became a magic, and now we celebrate it and we do everything else. Tomorrow is a Good Friday. And what happens by Monday or by Sunday? Or where have our priests, popes, have lied to us because they never understood. They never understood the point of transmutation. The crucifixion of Christ, the resurrection, is exactly what you have in book 1, 2, and 3. Now you have the capability to do it scientifically. You have the enhancement units being built. You have the teaching of the use of the magravs, energy, plasma direction. Everything is being given to the man. So, in a way, if any of you knowledge seekers understood the teaching from 270 knowledge seekers program till now, which is 447, 48, you could have done what Christ did. He understood how to go within the inner self, that the energy of the inner, which is the soul of the man, is more powerful than man, that can take the physicality of the man within it and then become the light, and then return it back into it, and then become another man. The man, the way you go from earth, from now to moon in a monkey suit, and then you still have to be in the monkey suit, or you learn to go from the earth to the moon and walk the way real the physical life will be on moon, with the dimension of restriction of it, and live a life as a man of the moon, as a person who lives in the dimension. And this is exactly what Christ did. In a way, Keshe Foundation teachings is the teaching of what you like as Christian to call resurrection. In the world of Islam, you call it the return of Mahdi, which is the return of soul of Muhammad. We had his teaching in physicality, we had his soul, and now the promised one is the collection of the return of the soul of Muhammad, bless his name. Not something else will come. And the teaching of him will be for you as a man to understand the transmutation. In the teachings, says that man become complete understanding of everything when he understands the transmutation of elements, as we said many times. But in the new understanding and completion of knowledge of the man is that when the man understands the transmutation of fields, magnetic fields, that in their motion they become energy, and the energy can become anything. We get the copper, we create zinc and gold from it. In a way, we do what happened to Christ. We take nothing, we give it the soul of the Creator, and we make a gold out of him, which is the soul of the Christ. The same with Muhammad, the same with the soul of Moses, but not the man as Moses. Then we come to understand that the totality of the teaching comes to one point. We all come from the same sun. We reflect like a mirror the beauty of that sun. But we do not become the sun because we are made of it, we are part of it. But we never become of it, become totality of it. The teaching of today, as is Easter, what we call weekend, is to understand the truth about resurrection. And finish with a dogma of lighting a candle in the church at a certain time in Jerusalem or somewhere in Nazareth, something else or whatever. We are not looking to be magicians. We are looking to understand the process of the creation, and then we become citizens of the universe. You transmute your physicality into the strength of the soul of the man, travel across the universe, and on planet Zeus, on Mars, or wherever, you return back to the dimension of physicality at the point and the place. You resurrect yourself. In a way, we are familiar with this, but we have denied it because we couldn't understand it. You call it a dream. In dream, you're in the presence of your mother, your presence of your friend, presence of somebody else you never met. You see accident, you see gathering, but how come? You allow the soul, which is in the dimension of the soul of the man, to travel and then get into parties or get into accident or see what's happening. And then you manifest yourself there in a dimension of physicality. How come you call it a dream? What is the reality of the life? We do the transmutation. We understand the process, but we never accepted it. We have the capability of it, and we need to be that marathon runner to be. What can I do? I want to see my brother in Washington, where I'm in Tehran. I want that, what I call transmutation. I make that trip because I want to. The desire to see my brother is so strong. I make that connection. I open the cage. I go to my brother. I sit down and have a coffee with him. I have a chat with him. Call him the next day. Did you have a feeling I was with you? Because you interacted with that dimension of the soul. He says, yes, I felt something, or no. Then you know the first yes, you have learned something. You desire to be rich, you work at it. You desire to understand the work of your soul, you work at it. But don't lie to each other, to your soul. It's not making a map. It's understanding the elevation of the soul, how to bring the energies, the fields of the universe to become connected to the soul of. This is what we do in the flight enhancement units. In some cases, many of you will go into the enhancement unit, you travel where you want to be, but the enhancement unit never moves from the ground. But you do the trip because we allow that elevation, that what I call transmutation, reduction in the field of the, what we call the spirit or soul of physicality, that the soul of the man is free to take his dimension. In a way, if you look at the, what I call the teachings of a few weeks ago, when I explained to you in the Linz Exhibition Center, we'll send one one person from this side of an object, from this side of the bridge to the other side. We are not doing anything else but what we are teaching. It's the evolution of the time for us. And some of us would like to be, but we cannot understand it. But we become the tool for the others to achieve what we have not managed to understand. That one day from them, one time from their experience, we receive the elevation to understand. We are here to serve, not to be served. In a way, this weekend or next weekend, if you understood, you have reached the station of understanding of the knowledge of the Creator in the name of Christ. The resurrection, the evolution, the transmutation. You call it in the name of theology, resurrection. We call it in the name of science, transmutation. No difference. Man has chosen many names for the same process. And this is another one of them. And if you can reach the dimension of understanding, the way you transmute and you reach the process of seeing your mother, seeing your father past years ago, you can target the strength, the devotion of the Christ, bless his name, and meet with him. Because now the cage of physicality is not buried somewhere. The freedom of the soul is free to be in touch with and to be part of, as part of the universal life. I do a lot. I heckle a lot. In past few months, those who've been very close to me, they know how we've been heckling to get everything sorted, that we create a condition, that we raise enough capital, that every man in every part of the world has that opportunity to be free. I'm here to serve. It does not matter what name people put on it. For freedom of the man, I beg and borrow, because man is physical and needs to be done. Otherwise, we just put the transportation system on and we just chuck out tons of gold. We don't need you. It's the test of the understanding of the process. And that's what I said many times, how much knowledge seekers, many of you in the background know, have offered properties, buildings, land, God knows what to the foundation, and I've refused. But when a need comes, I go to the knowledge seeker, says, this is the need for what it is today. We haven't taken a property that we sell today to be able to do something tomorrow. Because it's a test for the soul. It's a test for man or for me to understand. I have to go through the physical condition to understand what the operation is of the totality. Many of you will come to the point that they say, oh, this is what he meant, now you understand. But that time wasn't clear. Because you understand the need, the necessity for that to be done. Goes by the writing of the prophet. We test the fire with gold. How much is the heat of the fire that can melt the gold? Then we test the man with that gold. How much that gold worth attachment that will melt the soul of the man to be detached from it and become part of understanding and becoming the wealth of the, what we call the universe and the man as a creature. This weekend, you will, if you are in the Western world, what you call most of the dimension of non-Islamic might hear a little bit of it, or in the Jewish, you cannot escape from it, in Jerusalem and the rest of it, the resurrection. And in the later teachings, it becomes, by Muhammad and the others, transmutation. The same word, the same understanding, but both for the freedom of the soul of man. But now we understand what's the energy and the strength field of the soul of the physicality, what we call the spirit, and we know what is the soul of the man. And then we can transmute between one and the other. Manifest here, manifest there. We don't need to get into the car, you put the dimension of energy and soul. In a way, I understand this because as a nuclear physicist, I have to understand how we can change energy to matters. And the secret was the hidden fields within the atom, within the electron. Because you can become anything, you can become any number, as long as you stay in the state of plasma. Then you decide to be gold, to be a cell of a man, to be a wood. Then you understand the process of what we call the emotion of the man. Then you go into the process of understanding that the emotion of physicality has a direct connection to the emotion of the soul. And then you have to be able how to transmit between the two. And how to benefit from one to another. And how to be part of the totality where you're there to serve. The Keshe Foundation in the past 6 months has gone through a huge burden, has taken a huge step, and we tested those who are loyal to the name of their soul to the limit that we can get this achieved for the whole of the human race, that we can step by step bring the totality of the man into operation, to understand, to elevate, to change. Because when we change one, the others need to change, but we have to have the resources that it can be done and is strong enough to do to bring that change. I carry the soul of the Creator and is strong enough to do. But you have to be there to tap into my soul, to receive it, to elevate, to understand, and become the passenger of the universe the way we are. Then we all reach the state that we can understand the strength of the love of the Creator and know, which the love is the condition of giving. We don't ask you to go and burn candles and do this and the rest of it. Go and understand the knowledge of the creation as much as we can teach and you can understand, and we develop in the coming times. We are the messengers. We are those who bring the message of the science and ethics together. And in that process, as universal messengers, we understand the totality from A to Z as we are part of the soul of the Creator, and we understand our position. As we are part of the soul of the physicality of the man, we understand that position too. But we can transmute. We can bring knowledge in pieces that man and the other citizens of the universe, when they come to the point of creation and existence, can go to it directly and do not need to go through what the rigmarole the man has been over billions of years. In a way, we have brought a unification to the science of the creation and the creator. What was the knowledge of the creator now has become the knowledge of the universal community. Even though each village, each satellite, each planet had created, developed their own knowledge of existence and lived by it. Some jumped further, some jumped less, some understood, used part of it and still got stuck with it, but they never went to the next step. They got stuck in the UFOs, they're stuck in the ships, cars, or whatever. Then you come to one point. How much in the past teachings of the dimension of physicality, in the dimension of the energy field of the universe, you have educated yourself. How much you have understood that you can go through that point of transmutation. How much you can sacrifice, how much you can give that allows the others to reach elevation. How much you have to let go, that it comes to the point that the totality, what we call the freedom of the man's soul, become more important than individuality. And that goes back to Abraham and the sheep and sacrifice. The sun, for the freedom of understanding the beauty of the Creator. I sacrifice the sun and don't expect much. But I know the freedom of the man to be able to be released from the shackles of what we call those who have shackled man to this planet in the name of religion had to be broken, had to be opened up. And sacrificing a son was worth more than that. Because I know he'll be with me one day. But that day is the day when it's right, when it's time for it to be, not when I choose. As I told you, we come here to understand the pitfalls of the man, with pain, with crucifixion, with martyrdom, with whatever. Then we understand what the solution to it should be. And it's the same for every level. Till we don't understand it, till we don't feel the emotion of it, we cannot find a solution for man to be freed from the shackles of abuse. Then you understand what is there for you to achieve. What is there for you to find elevation? Not for us. As I said many times, you shall not find what I call temples and the churches of the Keshe Foundation. You find institutes of the Keshe Foundation to teach, to elevate. You find the technologies of the Keshe Foundation that you can use to understand more and more. One day you pick a cup, you drink from it, which is made by the Keshe Foundation technology, and that triggers you to understand the process of creation. That's why we do everything else while we are developing, elevating the soul of the man by putting back what this planet did not provide at the point of inception. Through its magnetic and gravitational fields, through its inertia, there is a misconduct of the work of the field, and has made the man to kill, has made the man to destroy. And we cannot come tomorrow and tell you that this is what you do. You have to learn it yourself. You have to believe in it, and you do anything to get to it. Because that elevation, when you see the change, when you see what it brings, then you bring the others into it, and then without knowing, by drinking the waters, you elevate the soul of the physicality and the soul of the man, and then somewhere down the line, out of nowhere, you come to the point of understanding the enrichment and understanding the creator and the creation and transmutation. You can be in the deserts of Africa or in the most luxurious buildings in New York. You need to reach that point. I remember when we opened the Keshe Foundation in Ghana, in Nuclear Center, in Ghana Atomic, and when we start producing the waters, plasmages, whatever, and people start by word of the mouth to understand that these waters can help with diabetic, can help with this, and can help with that. And they tested and they worked and they came to buy it. And the soldiers in the nuclear center, they became aware of it because they used it. Most of them had diabetic and they saw everything goes. What happened? Nowhere in the world you can walk next to the nuclear reactor in a security zone of any nation. The soldiers of Ghana Atomic opened the doors, and we could see man and woman walking like an ant line to the center to buy a bottle, to buy a gans of whatever, to go back, and then there was more coming. We had to do that in Ghana. We do now this in the exhibition center in Lens. We have opened the doors for the knowledge, and we have knowledgeable people. Mario is there. Herbert is joining in to transfer the knowledge to you, to understand the totality, not bits of everywhere. When you go through 1 or 2 hours of the what I call the exhibition understanding, you understand the totality of the meaning of the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation. Does not matter who you are. Then you understand the time for change has come. And then you understand the next step is to come. The coming of the Mahdi, as is believed by the what I call Iranian clergy, will be the maturity of the man to understand the process of the transmutation, not the manifestation of the man or an object. And when, after the harmony of Iran, when the clergy in Iran to understand this come, that will be the day of the judgment for their souls. And when they put the turbines down and bow to the knowledge of the Creator, not to the Keshe Foundation, not to Keshe, and not to any other, but to their own soul. The maturity of the understanding brings the peace, brings the next process. And we do everything to do that. You knowledge seekers, every Sunday, the spray, paint, whatever you do, 12 o'clock, lunchtime, and 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, dinner time, that you bring down synchronicity to bring all the elevation of all the souls. And this is part of the same process. We make the enhancement centers. We do everything else. We have to do. You can't sit down to die. One day you're going to be dying. There is no time limit when you cannot work. Age of 60, 65, retirement is a joke. This is where the most of the maturity of the knowledge has come, and you put men on the bed of death. There should be no limit when the man stops contributing to extension of the physical life or the soul. It's the same with Vatican. Vatican retires the priest at the age of 65. Don't pay them anything, and the pension starts at 70. Where do these poor priests of Vatican going to find life for 5 years till they get patents from Vatican? Abuse the soul, to abuse the others, then abuse their physicality. We're not there. If these priests understand the process, what we call most of the clergy in Vatican are in the same dilemma. By age of 65, or when they are there, not accepted, they're put on the street because they did not abuse enough souls. We know members of the what we call Vatican who are in that position. They come to the Keshe Foundation begging for financial support because they have decided to put them on the street. And what do you do with a man who served for 5 years while he's from the 65 to 70? The abuse is not just by the physicality, they abuse their own soul within the what I call frame of body. This is the whole process to understand. Maybe today, this weekend, give from your soul for the clergy, for the religious people of the world, to become aware of their own dimension, of their own existence. That they do not need to wait for somebody to call himself Mahdi or Messiah or whatever, but they become to understand the strength of the soul of themselves, that they become the Messiah of their own soul. The beauty of it is we're just messengers. We spend time, we give our message, we make sure the guidelines are observed, and then man wants to see that the cycle of physical life finishes. So we die in your eye, but the soul is the same soul, carries from Moses to Christ, to Muhammad, to others, and to you, and there where it goes to the next step. So we understand one thing from this weekend. We had this discussion before for Easter. Maybe now you understand more. Use the science and technology, as he said in the intro. We have published a paper that the station of the scientists and the prophets is the same. As one is just explaining the connection between the fields of the universe and the man, you call it the soul, the ethics, and one which does on the matter state, that it creates you energy, it creates you water, and makes you the food you eat. But in essence, now the two are the same. The feeder of the soul and the feeder of the man is the same knowledge, it's the same science, it's the same message. It's you who have to understand it and bring that change in. We'll bring that change into process this year, without the shadow of a doubt. Then it's how much we can change the situation, how much it is. Keshe Foundation has directly approached the Israeli authorities to start peace negotiation with Iran, with the full knowledge of the Israeli government and the Israeli, what we call, organization, and with the knowledge of the Iranian authorities. Because we are taking the knowledge of the spaceship into Tehran. Iran can land, the Iranian forces can land in the center of Tel Aviv without them knowing. We are, they say, against the regime, but we support Judaism. But where do you find those who make the framework of the government of Israel? Unless we give the knowledge to both sides, that they can bring a point of understanding, there is no need to have the same knowledge, same technology, the same understanding of transmutation. So what do? This position has become easy for us due to 5+1 talks that we have managed to break through. But our job is to be peacemakers by understanding of the technology, not by giving technology to somebody better than the other. When the Americans, the Iranians, the Russians, they all know, they all can be across anywhere else. You can transmute all your, what we call dust to gold. What are we fighting for? Do we need the situation of Ukraine? Do we need the situation what we have in Palestine? Do we need to have the hungry people of Africa? Or do we change the tools of war by understanding the transmutation of the elements, what Christ went to as what I call his sacrifice, in a way, his theology behind it, through crucifixion and in manifestation, to feed the soul, to feed the physicality of the man in the hunger-driven society in Africa or South America, or on the streets of New York when they clean the bottom of the rubbish bins to find the scraps that we can. With the knowledge man has today, with what we see created and developed and encouraged by those who abuse the man of physicality, there should not be such a position. And the Keshe Foundation makes every endeavor to bring that situation to an end. We do everything in the background, even with our enemies not knowing, we elevate their souls, that they become those who work to develop, to bring knowledge to the others. within my power and knowledge, I can wipe out the state of Belgium in one pen. But they need to have it done because they have to be elevated to understand. They are another part of the human race. Be it the king, be it his servants, be it those police officers who do all the wrong things, be it their agent who live within the same bed with us. We just elevate their souls. Otherwise, we can demolish them what we have from them. What is the love and the care we have for them? It does not matter what they do. What do you do when you have a child, when you take her out in the shop, cries and kicks and destroys things in the shop, like a bull in the china shop? You take her out, you talk to her, and then you see what damage you've done, what it needs to be done, how much I have to do to repair the damage you've done. You do that out of the love, not out of because I can bash your head in as a father. They do as we see in most of the Italian places. The children are not that, what I call punching bag, that the Italians do with the children and the rest of the world do with them. Our teaching is that loving care to bring man to the point to understand what not to do. It does not matter how much the child kicks and shouts and breaks. Gradually, it comes to understand he's damaging himself and nobody. I hope many of you manage to reach the point of resurrection. Maybe in theology, it's been put on the December Sunday, and it's the strangest that it always falls on a Sunday. And then we understand if man managed to control everything, it will be on a Sunday, as it happens, then man can manage to move that day to be the Sunday for his soul. I hope today I could bring you to understand a part of what is your responsibility to do, not ours. Because we done everything. We taught as much as we can. We carry on teaching you in different ways till we get through and you find the freedom. I don't live like a hermit, but I'm a hermit who gives love and knowledge to humanity today to elevate itself to the position of the understanding of the creation and the creator. I've been that hermit for thousands of years on this planet, and my mission is over because now we have managed to bring man to see. He might see some today and some next year and some next week and some in 1,000 years. But we have started the process. And in time, the knowledgeable man of earth, through the knowledge of the soul and physicality, will finish the job for human race and become messengers of the universe for others. Thank you very much for today. And I hope those of you who are believers in the resurrection of Christ understand you have the same capability as the soul of Christ did. You can resurrect and move in both dimensions. It's you who brings you to that point, and not a mag-grab, and not a donation, and not burning a candle, and not waiting for somebody to appear in the whatever name that they can fool you for the next job. Thank you very much, Rick. And I hope those of you who are believers in the path of Christ have very peaceful and a wonderful Easter holidays, and maybe it becomes a time for you to contemplate, to create that change for yourself. Thank you very much. If you would like to go to a break and we come back and we carry on.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Keshe, once again for today's teaching. We'll be back in. Oops, a bit of feedback there. I'll just mute your. There we go. Thanks. Oops. Okay, we'll take a short break here with a few commercial messages from the products of the Keshe Foundation and the flight unit. And we'll be back for questions in the second part of the workshop.
The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a space technology that allows us to work with the fields of the universe, creating a wide range of plasma field interactions and conditions. It allows the body to process itself from any physical or emotional imbalance. Once this balanced condition is achieved, the soul and emotion of the body can follow to find their balance and elevate the whole of the man. The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, technology of the future through advanced plasma knowledge.
Okay, welcome back to the 428th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April 14th, 2022. And this is the second half where we have a Q&A questions for Mr. Keshe. And people are welcome to raise their hands, the attendees here. There's a function to raise your virtual hand, then we can open your microphone so that you can speak. And I noticed there's a hand up, Mr. Keshe, from you, actually, which is something I've never seen before. I wonder if it's an inadvertent hand that we get once in a while.
I think it's inadvertent hand. It's my soul raising its hand.
Well, you finally get your chance to ask a question, Mr. Keshe. You turn the things around.
Yep. Yep, we can bring it down. Lower hand. I lowered my hand. My soul asked the question and got the answer. Anyway, let's see where we come and what we do.
Yes. Well, we have a number of questions here. I think I'd like to start actually with Cristiano from Brazil sent in a question from Darian, and who says, in the 425th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, a knowledge seeker asked a question about the emotions of the soul of man and the soul of physicality, and how the heart translates the emotions of the soul of the man. But we have both souls and they need to decide together. So my question is, how can we discern if this emotion is pure from the soul of man, like a communication affirming the truth, or from the soul of physicality, where it may still have errors and confusion because of existence on this planet? How to perceive this difference?
Experience. By experience, man up to now has always listened 99% of the time to emotional physicality, because he can respond to it, he can live with it, he can understand it. And every now and then, the emotion of what we call the soul come in and does something, and we call it by accident. Something happened, because that we cannot explain, because it wasn't part of the emotion of physicality. Whenever you say, oh, this happened coincidentally, or it was just by fluke, go back to it and see, did you ask that question from your soul? And then you start opening up to understanding which one is which, and would all become the same. And this is the only way you can do it. Every time it's like, oh, something happened by accident, go back and analyze it. Where, how? And then you see the connection to them and say, this must be the soul job. And then you become more and more reliant, and the more and more you develop it. There is no accidents. You're put in a position, and in a way by your soul, by the conduct of your feelings of your life. And then you have to live with it, or you have to understand it to go to the next step, to be able to understand more the process of creation. Many times, one of the processes that we talked about this very recently, why do you sneeze? Where does the energy directly go from the nose, passes where? And what faster reaction you can get? Some theologists understood this, but you go to the doctors and they try to explain to you and everything how the nerves work. How come suddenly you stop and say no? Something stops you from doing something. How come out of nowhere you start doing something which is opposite to what you've done all your life? Or what do you do? Because the soul has taken over the decision. That's for you to see. You have to understand it and then develop it. And then you understand which one is from the emotion of the physicality and which one is from the emotion of the soul. And gradually, you leave everything to the dimension of the soul. Everything to the dimension of the soul. And you go by testing and testing. And we go through the same process. And then you understand how souls work, how things come. We had an occasion this week. Within 1 hour, one of the members of the Universal Council was aware of the action of the Keshe Foundation, what we did in the background. And I wrote to him, this is amazing, less than an hour ago, we did such a thing and you come out of nowhere. Because the soul is aware. The function of the Universal Council as a soul has taken its dimension to accept responsibility for its language and for its nation. And then you live that way. You go by it, and things, it's just building a trust. What Keshe Foundation has gone through in past 6 months, 8 months, if I would have been in the way that I used to run in the business time 20, 30 years ago, I would have had a heart attack, I would have died. But no, I learned through the structure. That's what the soul, this is the time. When the time comes, on the right moment, it will complete. And the people who get tested along this way, it's been a harsh time, but a beautiful time for the Keshe Foundation. But only 1 or 2 people who are close now. We've done everything to bring that change. And it's all by trusting in the soul, trusting in what we do is for betterment of humanity, not for us. And you try, you rely on it, you understand it. This is, I'm here, I have a physical life, but my job is what I have to do as to support, to be the instigator, to be the initiator, to be the developer of that condition to bring in at this moment of time. The Israelis are on the throat of the Iranians. You mention Iran to the Israeli authorities, that's the end of the world. You speak to any of the Iranians, clergy, whatever Israel, this is the end. You are biggest enemy. But when you elevate their souls, they will eat on the same table very soon. Because they came from the same table. Power and money and what we can do has separated man soon become wise to it and they walk away from it. But those who are and they see in the middle, it's the responsibility to make that initial step to bring that change, even though it might look so hard. It's one way of working and trusting what we do. When it happens, it's not time for it. So it's no restless night. It's not for me to put another something in the bank or get something else. It's not time for mankind. It's not ready for it. But we know it's getting ready for it. It's just coming to the last leg of it. And a lot of knowledge seekers are standing fast. They're aware of it. They're suffering with it. But they're standing fast because they know it's there. It's just about to come. Be it in China, be it in the US, be it in Mexico, be it in Brazil, be it in Austria, you know. We all who run and work standing fast because we know when it comes, it brings that change. There is so many opportunities has been created by the war in Ukraine. You're not aware of it because you just listen to what propaganda comes from the Western world. But if you watch the way we do, there is so many opportunity in different directions has risen by Ukraine position. And I look at it as a positive step. I know some people are suffering, some people are getting whatever, but in a way, it's the end of the battles of the religions within one religion. And again, has brought what we see, hidden ways of doing whatever it is, blaming the others to do whatever. And never stop. The change in administration in the kingdom, United Kingdom, is necessary for world peace. Because the Privy Council and the British government as a Kingdom of Britain is instigator of many wars. But it has to be done from inside. And it has to be done the way they step back on. And it's in the process that started, as we know, a long time ago. We have to understand what this position brings us. The end of kingship, the end of anybody being higher than others. You'll be put in, you do wrong, you are committed to what is to be right, by the places without animosity, or you'll be the instigators in the White House that underneath you burn the fire. All has to come up. It's the time of cleaning up, and then we'll see the positive things which will come out of Ukraine situation. Amazing things, especially the way we work and we see it. But always say we trust it to the soul. And that always is there because he cannot make a mistake. To a lot of us, situations don't, and is there something wrong? But these guys, if they're not cleaned up where it's getting cleaned up in Ukraine, we'll have more and more of this in a few years' time. Battles of who is more, who is less. I pray for the soul of the, what are called the legions of Vatican, that they come to their senses. And the same with the church in Moscow. But that praying, that elevating their soul, has to bring them to announce what are called the end of Christianity. We'll see it. End of Ukraine situation will bring Christian world to that point. And you will understand very soon why. The same as the Islamic world is waking up committee. All has happened, has to happen within a frame of time. That they all come to the same position. And that's the time of the maturity of the man. We don't want, by process of trusting the soul of the man, to overnight the clergy just change the name to another and carry on with abuse. We want them to close the church doors that nobody goes in to be abused, and leave the mess they created over centuries behind those doors. The way we saw when the Church of England started selling the churches. The physical abuse of the man which came forward was unbelievable. I was in it. We were the first people in the front line with it. Buying a church and they don't let you to demolish it till their own people demolish it, that the number of children bodies buried within the church cannot be shown, that how much abuse was done. We are in the front line. We saw how Church of England had to change position, not knowing that this is what was going to happen to them. As they didn't care anymore because Church of England is returned back to Vatican. That was the shame of the, what we call Protestants, not the Catholics. And they managed to somehow keep it off the records, but it's still there. And the same will come with other things and how it is. We cannot go in abusing the soul of the man in one way and soul of his godly man that it has to come to a point of change, and they'll get know it from inside. And the only way to come when mankind understands which soul to listen to and why the reason is. When you hear you have to do something, then you judge it. I understand why. We are all part of the same process. But learn one thing. If you listen to the soul of the man or the soul of physicality, Always ask, because you have to have the consent of the others. And if the consent is given, you have done no wrong. Even though it might not be to the benefit of the others, because they are the ones through their own process might see themselves as the losers, but the same is part of the process of the development. Even you want to ask, you ask. And then you understand you always work in the right way, in the right direction. You have to learn. It's the process we all learn slowly, and you come to it to understand it, and you trust the soul. Sometimes the soul of physicality, because it knows every physical dimension. Sometimes the soul of the man, which tells you the position of the totality of the physicality and the structure of the bigger structure. This is what we have not understood. The soul of physicality is to protect you in the physical dimension. The soul of the man is to protect you in the dimension of the universe. And the sooner we understand this, the sooner mankind will be free and understand how to position one in respect to the other, in what position and what condition and when. Then we become mature to the process of what we call transmutation, or what we call resurrection. Christ could have walked away from the cross, but he knew he has the power. So let them do what they like, because I know what I'm going to do. I went up the cross with the Christ, and I know exactly what happened. I know how the transmutation took place, and how and where, and how the thing took shape. The body never went missing. Christ went through the dimension of the soul of the physicality and the soul of the man, because he knew. He was taught. He became of that knowledge just prior what you call the Last Supper. The knowledge was not given to him to the last minute, more or less, because he was a very joyful chap. And he always thought he'd get away with it. But when he came to the point of what we call resurrection, or you call it a transmutation, the knowledge was given to him and was told he can use it once. The last time, the Last Supper, if you understand it, is the last time he ate as a prophet. That's what the Last Supper is. Not the last time he ate with his people. You always put it to a definition of something else, because then it has meaning. Because it was a time when he left the body of the man, the last meal as a man, as a prophet. And when he came down, he became a man, and he took his path. And now, maybe for the first time, we understand what the Last Supper means in the dimension of Christianity. Nothing more, nothing less. The rest of it is what you like to talk about. It was the last time he ate as a prophet of God. And that was it. It was the Last Supper he had, and he walked into, and he was fully aware. He bargained for it because he loved two women. And it was given for the love he had. Maybe now you understand all these hullabaloo about the last. He accepted it because he knew the dimension of what he'd done was beyond the dimension of acceptance by his soul. He didn't go through the path which Moses went and start all sorts of wars and killing. He decided he'd done enough. He brought the change he wanted, and it's time to live and transmute from one to another. He listened to his soul and the soul of physicality, and he took that transmutation, or what you call whatever in any language. Any other question?
Okay, thank you. There's I'd like to go on to a question from Antonio, and then we'll go back to a couple of more technical questions. From Antonio, says, thank you, Mr. Keshe, for your kind words today to those who are celebrating Easter and other festivals. My question today refers to the born-again Christians who I assume have an experience of their own souls, but many attribute it to another soul, such as the Christ or Krishna and others. What are your thoughts on these experiences?
I never understood what the reborn Christians are. Who came up with this terminology? Then we have a reborn Jews, we have reborn Muslims. If you can be reborn in one religion, you can be born in anyone. And as we know, they do, they're what they want to say. But what does that mean? What is actually not the physical process, the soul process of it is. The soul doesn't get reborn, it's the same soul. Somebody, because of an experience, realizes in an accident that he can die, and he hasn't said or loved his wife or his child, and he comes home because he survived the accident, becomes the best father, the best husband in the world. Is it a reborn husband or reborn father? Or needed that experience to realize where it's done wrong? And what name do you put on it? How many of you have been through that process? I'm going to go home and enjoy my family and I stay, whatever. Because tomorrow might not be there. What name do you put on it? In the name of the religion, you become a reborn Christian? Or in the name of your wife, you become a new reborn lover? Or in the name of your child, a new reborn father? It's us who have chosen whatever we like to do it. It has no meaning to me, never had. It's just that you go for the second time to be baptized. Why does that happen only to Christians? Or is it a very good way to get some more money to the church? Because now you go and you pay again. It's a business world when it comes to these things, but it has no meaning. I don't understand it. I never understood it, how you can be reborn, where you're already, just because you experience something, you become a reborn husband because you didn't know, or you become a reborn father because you jumped an accident. And are you going to be a good father that you might not be there tomorrow? Fear of fear. Any other question?
Okay, we have a couple of technical questions for you here. First one from Jefferson from Brazil. It says, good morning, Mr. Keshe. My name is Jefferson Modesto. I am from Brazil. When I was a teenager, I used to get together with 2 or 3 cousins to make objects move and answer questions through those movements. For this, we used a table, a glass, letters and numbers arranged in a circle on this table. Before we started, everyone would hold hands with each other and do a minute of meditation. Then we started the experiment. It was as if we were talking to a soul, and that soul responded by moving the glass. Based on this experience, and considering that every human being is a maggrav, and what we were doing was connecting these magravs in a stellar configuration, my question is, 1, if we make 3 magravs and connect these magravs in series, the magnetic terminal of the first connected to the gravitational terminal of the second, the magnetic terminal of the second connected to the gravitational terminal of the third, and the remaining terminals, gravitational of the first and the magnetic on the third, hold each one with one hand, thus forming a stellar configuration. Will I be able to create these forces, or will I be able to integrate my soul with the souls of the magravs and travel through the universe, through the soul, or through physicality with this system? It's a pretty long question. I don't know if you got
It's a
all
very
that.
simple question. He hasn't understood the purpose of magravs. Very simple. And that's why is half energy, half matter, and because not understanding, looking for an answer from us. Do you need a wire to connect magravs? Do you need wire to connect magnets on the table? And what happened if you put 3 magnets on the table and 1 magnet in your hand? Move the magnets outside and see what happens to the magnet in your hand, or move the magnet in your hand and see what happens to the magnet outside. Do you need a wire connection? Do you understand the true purpose of the magrav system? Then I think you get your answer.
I've got a perfect little video that I found the other day that I made that I forgot about. Let me share it here. That might illustrate what you were talking about with magnets, actually.
Yep. You used to a lot of these magnet things, huh?
This one is with, as you can see here, it's a series of flat magnets, and 4 of them in a group to form sort of a magrav shape with the 3 on the outside and 1 in the middle. And there's 4 groups of these, and one of them is in the center. So I'll just play the video and you'll see how it goes here. So that's it, basically. It's a couple of different things going on. As you can see, the first configuration with the magnets in the center is like the magrav configuration in many ways, and it's like the free plasma in the center, you could say, or looking at it as 4 different points of the tetrahedron, depending on how you look at it. But in any case, you can see the positive positioning of the way everything, the configuration holds that center in place there. But then if there's enough agitation, it goes and it releases that configuration into a lower energy configuration with the 4 units all on the same spacing, and they maintain that position. And if that gets agitated even more, then it ends up going back to an even more lower energy example as the tube, or the lowest form of its energy, you could say.
Yeah, it depends how you see. This is still matter-state connection. Magravs are not matter-state connection. They are field-state connection. There is no matter condition to them. And this is the beauty of it. And this is what is important for us to understand. There's a difference between matter state fields and a plasma state field. We have converted with the magraphs the matter state field into the plasma state field. And I feel that none of the knowledge seekers understand this. Doesn't matter how much we push it. And this is the problem, part of the problem of the understanding this knowledge. Once you have a matter state, when you nano-coat it, you have moved into the cosmic direction, fields, and a matter together. When you go into the gas state, you're in totally plasmatic condition, in universal condition, but on the influence of the inertia of the fields of the planetary system. Knowledge seekers have not understood this, especially creation of the gases. I'm sure in a coming time, scientific world, when knowledge seekers come from the world of the universities and the others in a very short time, will open this in a massive way. Because when they publish a scientific paper about it, then because it's written by a doctor or a professor and somebody who's got a PhD out of it, we can accept it. But they don't trust their own intelligence. You should understand. Something I have to say here to our knowledge seekers. Our knowledge seekers in Finland, in Germany, and other number of places around the world have contacted the Keshe Foundation in respect what we do and what we can do with your groups of knowledge seeker scientists. Keshe Foundation has looked into these structures. We are still looking into these structures, and we soon will announce what we're going to do with this kind of bunch of scientists who are sitting grouped together and they're developing different, or they want to do different type of developments in different aspects of the technology. We have a big group in Romania. We have other groups in US and Mexico and Brazil. We'll bring you together in a very specific way. We're discussing it recently with some of the key members of the Keshe Foundation, that how we can or how we see to bring your knowledge seekers together to work, but still be independent of their own national language. We have a position now, because we are analyzing step by step of whatever is happening, what can happen. We can send you Maghreb Bureau. It has many the fly unit to your country, and then you have to find universities or whatever and bring in the scientists in to do. And then what will going to happen to this system sitting somewhere till somebody make a decision? We are looking at the possibilities of opening our institutes, part of it, to the nation by nation, or language by nation, to be part of, to do the research collectively in one place. Scientists from Denmark, scientists from Germany, scientists from Brazil will be given opportunity, will be given a unit each, and then it's for them to collaborate with others outside. They can come and go, very much like CERN. You can come and spend a weekend, 2 days, 3 days here and there, to complete in what as a group you decide to do and share it with the others. And this way, you still have the independence of knowledge. You can go to your sciences. I'm going to Austria, or I'm going to Brazil, or I'm going to Arizona. There's a unit there belong to us, and then we can share, we can take what you see, and then we make it a place that every unit gets used and integrated together. And even on the background of it, if you have a knowledge seekers who are that good at it, we can some sort of help you to do that, transport and coming and back and going forth and whatever, till we see what. This way, the knowledge seekers in one place will share the knowledge, even though they work in the independent direction, and we have collection of 10 or 20 enhancement units in one place where the knowledge can be shared freely. Till when your government or your authorities, universities come to accept it, then we can take the unit back to your countries and the rest of it. But this way we allow the process of the development be by the knowledge seekers and other scientists from universities to come in to share. And we are considering this position, and this is one of the fastest ways sending a unit, somebody will accept it in university. You still carry on with the government, but your units here, they can come and see, they can analyze it, and whatever it is, they want some more units or one unit will be done. But this way, knowledge seekers and the scientists work together to achieve what you call it, this flow of knowledge. We are now developing, we are in the final phase of developing the reactors for the space flight for the enhancement units. This process most probably will complete within the next few weeks, and then they'll be placed in the what we call flight systems in April, May, to be ready for the first test in June. And part of this work is to bring the knowledge seekers from world institutes and the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers together to work in this manner. And I hope our teams will put the last touches to the flight system in the next few weeks. Then it'll be what you call placed and shipped, and we go to the next phase of the flight testing from 6th of June as we promised. And this process will carry on, will be developed, and we'll see to what extent we can manage to what we call push the knowledge seekers to work with the universities and institutes inside the Keshe Foundation Institute. This way, we'll see a rapid development and extension to it. We have offered the same process with what we call State of Israel. We have offered the same thing to China and to Iran. And in so many ways, neutralization of the science and technology in the hand of all the what we call knowledge seekers, concentrated in one place, we think will bring a faster results than what we see. A lot of you knowledge seekers are scattering. They're trying to find somebody somewhere in a university or government to accept it. As we are working as one nation, we establish these centers. And we put your reactor from your nation, your enhancement unit flight system in that position. Come in, you can work weekends on it, 3 weeks holidays you take from work to complete the process, and whatever else is the freedom of your knowledge seekers as a group. We don't allow one person, I want to come and do this. It has to be collectively. We know there are a number of groups around the world who would like to do this. But this way, knowledge seekers share the totality of the knowledge and then becomes as one nation and not sitting somewhere dusting. These things cost huge amount of money to sit somewhere for somebody to decide. This way, the knowledge seekers will start by nation or whatever, what district, and the governments will join in, and scientists from the other places as you publish your papers and show how things work. And just give us a few more days, and then we will make an announcement. This means foundation has to find huge premises that these things can be carried out. It's not just that tomorrow we can do, and finding places in population centers to the sizes of these kind of testing is not very easy. And then you have to find the rest of it to put it together. But this we see as a rapid evolution of scientists to come and go and develop and extend the knowledge together. Please, there is something which we're seeing a lot. A lot of knowledge seekers just walk into the exhibition center. They travel from different countries or whatever to be in the exhibition center when it's not allocated time. Please contact the Keshe Foundation where you can do the booking for your time. because it's not somebody can come and just look and go. We have people there who take 2 or 3 hours to explain, to show the connection, the science and everything. That brings everything together for you. And we cannot handle more than 10 to 15 people at a time as you go through the process. And Keshe Foundation now is moving to, we're considering, we'll know more in next day or two, this next week, that we already have 2 sessions a day. For 3 days, we are extending it to 5 sessions, 5 days a week, 2 sessions a day. And then we are expanding because a lot of knowledge seekers cannot come in during the week, working. 1 or 2 weekends a month, we open on Saturday for knowledge seekers to come around the world to see, to be part of the exhibition center. And this way allows a lot of you to be and to come to see. And we ask you, please make a reservation, get in touch with the exhibition center, and get to know what is happening and when you can come in, because then it's not a zoo to come and see and go. It has to be understood, and people who are there to explain to you what it is. And you're getting a lot of German, Austrians, and the others coming in, but please make sure you book your time coming in. And then we'll see how much we can extend. And it cannot be more than 1 group at a time. Maybe if they push it 2 groups at a time, but it's interfering between the tools. And this is a knowledge scientific, what we call tour, not something to just come and see and go. Get in touch with the exhibition center, the people who organize it, and book your time. And just don't jump in, I'm going to install admin. We had this occasion a couple of times. We still respected the asked to come back for the afternoon session or the morning session the next day. But try to help us to be able to translate the knowledge or transfer the knowledge completely from us to you. Any other question?
Okay, we've got another technical question in YouTube from Peace Plasma. My question, Mr. Keshe, is what if you take a copper wire and wind it around a quartz crystal to turn it into an orgone quartz crystal and stick it in a 50 milliliter tube of GaN CO2 and zinc oxide and COHN? What will this do?
I think a lot of people did that. Do you remember when we started talking about the crystals?
Yeah, it does sound quite familiar, actually. And you were showing crystals. Geez, that was a few years ago, probably 5 years ago or 4 years ago, something like that.
These things have been done. I think you got to go into the archives and see what was left as information by the people who did it.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah.
I would suggest he seems to, the person seems to have a pretty good understanding about what they want to do. Well, they should simply do it and see what happens.
Yeah, and tell us back what happened.
Yes, exactly.
We see some responses in golden age of cancer still appearing, some people doing things in some places. But you have the testimonials, bring it to the testimonials and explain it all, disclose it.
Yes, they can bring it into the Keshe Plasma Reactor group as well. We could discuss it there. It's a good place for that kind of thing. And the testimonials workshop, which is every second Monday every month.
Yeah. Let's see. What else?
Okay, I think you've answered the question from Andy Ross. What is the update on this Spaceship launch?
We are still going to test on the 6th of what they call it, June. But the systems are built, and we are developing the last phases of the space reactors. Even I was in the lab yesterday. It's something totally different than what you've seen in public, and we have changed the reactors altogether as space reactors and all sorts. We will see it most probably. It will be disclosed around June, and then we go for testing. It's the prototypes is getting set up and done, the testing getting done. We're still waiting for some of the chairs to be concluded. We have placed order if they can do it. They tell us. Comes from Iran, and hopefully they can deliver on time in the next 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, that we can place them in. It's beautifully done by the Iranian people who showed us what they have, and we have given the order for 400 seats to them. The first 100 units flight systems are there, but they have to adjust something. A couple of pieces needs to be removed, and if they can achieve that, and the backbone to the skeletons are built, and hopefully if they deliver to us what is supposed to be, will be beautifully done. I hope that what we call the Iranian team can deliver this to us on time, because we had to look for something without any metals to it, but at the same time to be in line with what the foundation is looking for. This is the picture of the seats, flight seats, and the control is slightly different. And we hope Yusuf can get this sorted. Everything is what we call technically by the team in Iran is ready to go. These are the chairs that you will see, and it is in line with what we want. And in a way, you can see the mass production on them is there to be done. And there is no metal used in these chairs. We have a couple of technical pieces to do, and you will see it. Any other question?
Okay. See, there was, we do have a hand up here, but first, the appropriate question from Antonio is other question is, when the flight system is shown, will it be visible? For my understanding is it cannot be detected, and therefore can it be proven to those who need to see it or to follow its movement with our instruments of today?
Wait and see, isn't it?
Wait and see if we can see it or not.
We can see it. It is a very interesting. We just designed, what do you call it? We altered the design, this addition to it. You got to understand, our manufacturing side is progressive development, and you cannot put all the information in one go on the table. So step by step, as understood more, what do you call it? We add to it that they understand the next step. And now the space reactors has reached more or less its final position. And then a couple of things to be done, and then we'll see the results and the effect. The factory is set up beautifully. I was there yesterday, and you have a production and you have assembly line, and they are doing the two. And apparently there is no knowledge seekers on any of the production. They just cover them. and are producing the systems. And what we call the first head units has been prepared to leave for Arizona in the coming days. And you will see it in, what do you call it, in the mass production in the coming days. Will come to see, you will see the, what do you call, the vision units, which carry the Keshe Foundation, what we call knowledge behind it, and in a very, very sophisticated but beautiful way.
Just to clarify for people, because there's still a question from Said, who's thanking you, Professor Keshe, for bringing freedom and hope to the world. My question, what are we waiting for on June 6th?
June 6th, we tried to test the first flight system. And it's a very abnormal system. It has no control. We finalized the control system between the soul and the system and the craft. Yesterday was explained how it works for our team to be able to put it together and to be assembled. It's a very unusual control system, and we hopefully should be able to see it working before June. And in June, we try to create the first flight system. We might succeed, we might not succeed, but the whole thing is getting up to that position. And it's a matter of getting the units for Arizona and getting the units for NASA in America and the one in Iran, all coming together at the same time. There's a lot happening in the background. There's a lot happening in the background. The problem we have, let me explain something. The problem we have is not, there's a lot of problem has been created by what we call people who we kicked out of the Keshe Foundation. And it's taken us nearly 6 months to sort that problem. And it's taken so much energy and effort for us to be able to do this. Those who we kicked out very recently in the last couple of years out of the Keshe Foundation have created mayhem with lying and cheating and everything. And it's taken us to prove to the governments and to the banking system how much lie has been put in. And in a way it's good because now they turned towards us. And that effort took a lot of energy in respect to development and expansion. But it's over now. Hopefully we have come to an end of it. But this is what is, you hear us trying to fly, but you cannot imagine how much has been created outside deliberately to create mayhem, to create, in a way they said they take control of the Keshe Foundation. The whole aim was that I become the owner and the boss of the Keshe Foundation. Keshe Foundation is owned by US public. I'm just a servant. I just provide the services that we comes on the street. But the amount of damage has been created by them, especially the Belgians, the ones who we kicked out, is enormous. But we have managed, if we proven to the government, to the banks that, and the beauty of it is now they want to know more. It allows them to open their eyes that what we missed. And as one guy told me, Mr. Keshe, nobody served you better than your biggest enemy. Now we understand what we have to do and what is about to come. Then we can plan for it, bank-wise, financially, in the European Central Bank and the rest. It's amazing how much energy we spent past 6 months, a year, to, in a way, not to prove, but to show and to explain. And that energy took a lot out of, especially time we have to do. And now it's over. We are reaching the point that we can go to the next step. And the developments and spread of the knowledge and technology will take a new course. They had to sit and read hundreds of pages which we submitted and understand it. To do these documents, it's not easy to sit and explain. You receive instructions from World Bank, from the European Central Bank. You don't oblige, you don't complain completely. Word by word of it, they lock you down. Same with the governments, they lock your companies down. We had to go through it. I have spent time, and God knows so much energy with the Keshe Foundation team in the background, without them knowing or knowing it, have done a lot to do this. But the beauty with it is now that we have the banks behind us, we have the governments behind us, and now you will see the changes. These changes should have come maybe 6 months, a year ago, but we were not ready for it. Now we are ready for it, and we have the support. And this takes time. We should have the scientists from different agencies on the table weeks and months ago. Now it's changing. We are not defending, we are explaining. Because we done nothing wrong. We brought a new technology. It's for them to understand, and they're understanding it very well. And thanks to a number of top management of the Keshe Foundation in different countries, we held everything together to go through this rough time. And it's over. And you will see the benefit of it in the coming months and years, how it was done. And it forced the Central European banks, number of the governments in Europe, to look at the Keshe Foundation in a new eye and to understand what is to come. Especially with the situation in Ukraine, what we have put in the front with, and what we see will become, is damage. We were looking at it with our Chinese team this morning. 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, we were changing around about 7.8, 8.2 RMB to 1 euro. Today is 6.9. The European economy has collapsed 15% in a few weeks. The strength of exchange shows what is happening to us in the West. And Keshe Foundation has a lot of solutions. And the government start looking at it because it's an option to bring employment, to bring back a lot of conditions. We still get problems. We still have to prove the technology in different ways. But it is you as knowledge seekers who keep everything in the front. And you're doing it. We see a lot of work done in different European countries by knowledge seekers. Now you get the support of the Keshe Foundation. You're in that position, hopefully, to move on and bring that credibility which you look at it as an institute, as a structured scientific organization which can back it. And this is part of what is the Keshe Foundation busy with. Space unit are there. Everything else to produce the backing of it is there. But we have overcome a lot of problems. And if we would have been like 2 years ago with people with us, everything would have been destroyed. They called the heads of the Keshe Foundation and told them, we're going to take over and with the new owners. Foundation has no owners except you as knowledge seekers. And the Belgians wanted to be the owners of the Keshe Foundation. They thought they have the biggest spy mole, or whatever you call it, inside the house, and they get it. We can give you writings, what has been said, but it belongs to you. And the knowledge has been done. We've done our work. We still carry on doing. And we see a lot of benefits. A lot of positive things can come out of Ukraine for the Keshe Foundation. for humanity in a way of bringing things out and changing things. And it all depends on how from next week or two we push these things through and we bring it out. We took a lot of pressure and what I call full transparency of the top people in Keshe Foundation brought us through that change. We believe we are committed to it. And this was why Keshe Foundation was going from pole to post and post to pole for years, because inside they were preempting our moves, and now there is nobody to preempt it. It's done by knowledge, just solid, tight, and it's going forward very much. We were betrayed for years from inside, and now it's not there. And we saw the mayhem for 2 years of it from the start. It brought a lot of benefit to us, and it took a lot of energy, but now we are back on track, hopefully, and then on the 6th of June, we test. Before 6th of June, we test the flight systems. And we are not looking for pilots. We are looking for those who have a clear soul understanding to become the pilots. And we are not advertising. It's the same as Universal Council members. We are not asking anyone to become Universal Council. It's your soul who has to make the call to serve the men. And the pilots will do the same. We will see. We take it step by step. I thank especially the Austrian team, and the Arizona team, and the Chinese team, and the team in Brazil, in Nigeria, and Australia, who stood firm behind and pushed things through and carried on, and hopefully we're out of it. But you will see totally the benefit. 6th of June is our target to make the first flight, but we still tried before. Everything is in hand, everything is getting done, and it's an amazing control system, an amazing flight system. We show you the way. If it fails, then it's for you as knowledge seekers to perfect the job. We have no hesitation to test, because it's there to be tested, it's been developed to be tested. And if it fails, we have to find out where and how and what needs to be added. And 6th of June is our time. Because we can do it next year and then the next year, but at least 6th of June, we see our weaknesses. We see if it does and how it does, what conditions it creates. What can we interfere with, or can we interfere at all? Can we create that left-hand motion? We have evolved the technology beyond what you see in the exhibition center. Is not even what the technology is about anymore. Scientifically, it's 100 years ahead, but it's not in public. It's not being public. And one of the reasons we decided we'll keep the station centralized, then we don't allow others to break into and trying to see to and steal from us. The unit was shipped from Greece to Keshe Foundation headquarters, which had a small, actually very basic technology in it, and they stole. We received an empty envelope. And the Austrian Post tell us this is how we received it. It's the same as they did with our, what we call servers, shipping from Holland to Italy. They destroyed it and they gave us the destroyed box, if you remember. The enemies of the foundation are very big because we touch everything. They steal our post, they empty our post to see what's in the post. Any other question?
Okay, before we go to our hand up here, let's just like to read from Cristiano from Brazil. It comes from Alexandra. Mr. Keshe, I have no words to express how my heart feels at this moment. The only way I can express myself is in tears, eternal gratitude. Your love is infinite. Thank you for not giving up on us.
Thank you.
Okay. And so we have a hand up here from Alexander. If you could go ahead.
I want to tell you something very interesting from Brazil. You are from Brazil, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They published an article on the Facebook that the gentleman, we have copies of it, that it says Mr. Keshe is a reptilian, and I know it because I speak to his wife and she told me he's a reptilian. His ex-wife. And we're getting all the information that Mr. Keshe changes and his eyes changes and he becomes reptilian. And we can hear you, Rafael, in the background. And it's very interesting that in Brazil, because the Keshe Foundation has grown so rapidly, how they have made the reptilian out of me. And the guy, we can publish the Facebook page on it. It says, I speak to his ex-wife and I know because she told me. And it's very interesting. And then you understand how they still carry on in what we call damaging or trying to spread, open up the solid background of what is the truth in teaching in what we call Brazil, because it's growing so rapidly with the work of the knowledge seekers. So we thank you, the what we call knowledge seekers of the Brazil and the hard work you are doing. But I promise you, if I was a reptilian, I would have shown myself by now.
Okay, well, we have Alexander. Do you wish to open your microphone there? I see Raphael is here as well. Hello, Alexander.
Alexandre, você está aí, Alexandre?
Sim, sim.
Pode falar.
Bom dia, senhor Mr. Keshe, bom dia, Rick, bom dia a todos, obrigado. A minha pergunta é relacionada às civilizações passadas. Gostaria de saber do senhor informações sobre os sumérios e a tecnologia do passado, se era tão avançada quanto qual o senhor tem mostrado para nós atualmente através do plasma.
So, Alexandre would like to know about the past civilizations, if the technology of the Sumerians was so advanced as this technology that you are trying to bring to us today.
What is interesting is the knowledge, the understanding, partially understanding the work of the field of the universe, even they didn't have magnets, was understood by different tribes or those who could see, understand the work of the plasma. Some, in contact with the patterns of the universe, learned something, but they didn't have the intelligence to, so they copied part of it. It's not that the race of the man never touched understanding of the field motion, what we call plasma, but they went on the material side, and those tribes or groups who understood it could not take it further, or for a limited time they used it, and then when it became opposite to the interest of the rulers, they were silenced or were taken off and they taken out of the equation. We see part of these technologies in a sporadic way across in different parts of the planet. Some learned by the man himself, some was given to man, but man never understood it, but they copied it. And so it's not that one race did something, whatever. You got to realize one point. The knowledge we give in the Keshe Foundation covers the totality of the knowledge of the creation. In way, as you call it, medicine, food, energy, transmutation, transportation, structures of the materials, how to transmute. It's a totality of the package. And you don't understand every part of it, what to do. When you look at the enhancement system, flight enhancement system, in it, you have a flight system, like Earth moves. In it, you have the feeding station, which gives you the food body. In it has a system which takes what you don't need. It's there. In it, there is a system. If you need to produce material, you can switch into it. So in it, we have the energy system that we absorb energy from the universe. We have made a mini cosmic structure. In the other times, you might see, oh, this tribe could do this. So they had maybe a group came to understand, but they cover a very small part of the knowledge, but we see it. It's not that man has been ignorant to the knowledge. Those who understood it, the partner understood maybe a small piece of agriculture, a small piece of something, they've developed it and left behind, or they could not pursue it because the knowledge and intellect was not there to carry it on. But now it is. As much as we say the knowledge is not exclusivity of universal community and man is kept out, it's the same with the human race. Different races have achieved certain amount of knowledge gain, but in a very small field, or maybe a couple of fields. And this is the problem. We see it. It's not, we cannot say man has been ignorant to everything of it. You look into part of the, what we call South American knowledge, how they used to live, and where they got the knowledge from. How in part of Australia we see part of the universal knowledge. Because when a man sits alone, he thinks he becomes wise if he tries to understand the work of the cosmos. You don't need to be Galileo or somebody else. And this is part of the problem. It's not exclusivity of one somebody. Yes, they might have found a solution to understanding the work of maybe in a different way of how something works, but we don't see totality to cover everything, where the man can become independent, man can become peaceful. And this is what you receive in the packages of the knowledge we give, because then you decide which one you have. You want to use the energy side of it, you want to use the food side of it, you want to use the transportation of it. All the knowledge is given for one man to do everything. And you don't need to grow somewhere because you can educate yourself, you can test yourself. And this is, we see it in partially, yes. We see a lot of the development in Egypt. The Egyptians, part of it, then became very, very religious, very inside introvert to understand the work of their body. They understood the work of the universe, and we see some of the work in their structures, in their writings. We see a lot of it, huge amount of it, in the Iranian culture, in the scientific world of the past times, understanding, Sufis and the rest. We see the same in China. Because when you concentrate and try to understand and unravel, you understand more and you can tap into, but then you have to see how you can connect it to everything else. And you have, as knowledge seekers, access to all that gift. Even some of the knowledge you received was not available to Christ or Moses or Muhammad. You've been given that much more. the knowledge you're given at the moment is equal to the knowledge of the universe. You have to decide on what much you put in. I said 270 is the first time we brought that structure in. Now you know. 200 and something, 170 something teachings down, we learn a little more what was said in 270 knowledge seekers program. It's not an exclusivity. And do we repeat part of it as it is totality? Yes, you will see some of the workup, maybe a tribe here and a tribe there, but they were more individuality. If you look at in South America, why they understood and they changed the lands with was totally nothing in it to a fertile agricultural land by burning the wood, creating nanomaterials, then with it, with the presence of the salt, the ash they made, they create gases, and they could cultivate in a black land the best beautiful vegetation. Because it wasn't nanomaterial, it's the salt and the ash which created the nanomaterial. And now you understand with the composite materials in the wood, the copper and zinc or whatever, created gases, energy fields that the plants could grow where it couldn't grow before. I did that in Tiham in the house. We had a part, nothing grew. I kept on putting the ashes in the right way, and we started seeing vegetation growing where nothing could grow. Just wanted to prove I understood how the people in South America created life. But they could see, they couldn't understand the knowledge. But now we can interpret. Did they have a knowledge of nanotechnology and gas production? Or by observation, they understood just something. And they followed it. The only thing they couldn't follow in a way is the creation of water. And that's why they moved out of their positions, because they could not. They mastered a lot of things, but they couldn't master how to feed themselves or how to create water. And when the water finished, we see empty cities. Now, if you look at the new programs which are coming out, how they're mapping out the Amazons and finding the castles and how they went back to bushes, it all came down to that process of lack of water at a certain time they could not reach. Maybe just for a decade, and they moved out. We don't find the skeletons, we find empty cities, which means the knowledge was there, but they couldn't carry on. Any other question?
Yes, we have a hand up here with Dariush. Dariush, just get that, allow you to talk there. If you can open your microphone and go ahead. Dariush.
Dariush Zafari.
Okay. Do you need a translator, or are you good with English?
Persish bere. Farsi, Persish.
Did you say Farsi?
Yeah, yeah, Farsi.
Well, maybe you can ask your question directly to Mr. Keshe.
Thank you, merci. Yeah.
Mr. Keshe, do you want to try Farsi, or shall we get a translator?
Yes, I have no problem with it. I had my phone on the mute. I'll try to translate it. ببخشید شما این هفته رفته بودین لینز؟
بله من لینز هستم هد پروفسور.
چه کاری داشتی؟
بله من به خاطر مشکل تنفسی که دارم و چند بار سر کلاس سوال کردم شما نمیتونستین جواب بدید. با خانومم اومدیم لینز که امکان داشته باشه اینجا به شکلی با شما تماس بگیریم. پریروز نمایشگاه بودم و از طریق آقای ماریون تقاضا کردم چون ما اجازه نداریم شماره تلفن شما رو داشته باشیم، ایشون زحمت بکشن و به شکلی یه ارتباطی با شما
بذاریم براتون تشریح کنم. ما به هیچ عنوان در قسمت پزشکی کار نمی کنیم. اگر هم دانش رو داشته باشیم باید از طریق دکتر برامپور باید بریم، از طریق ایران.
بله.
تنها راهی که میتونیم کمکتون کنیم. من از طرف طبی دست نمیزنم، حتی اگر نیستم باشیم. من از اونجا اومدم بیرون، بهم تلفن کردم، ولی به هیچ عنوان ما در قسمت طبی مثلا شخصا دخالت نمی‌کنیم. در قسمت فارسی آقای دکتر برپور در تهران هستن که میتونید باشون تماس بگیرید. ایشون مشاور کش فاندیشن طبی هستن که میتونن راهنماییتون کنن.
بسیار. ولی غیر از سوال‌های پزشکی یه سوال دیگه هم داشتم. می‌خواستم ببینم یودو چجوری میتونیم گنس یودو تولید کنیم؟
توی تیچینگ ها هست، باید پیدا کنید. اونجا همه چی گذاشته. بپرسین از ایران، کش فاندیشن ایران میتونن کمکتون کنن.
ما سر کلاس سوال کردن کسی نتونست جواب ما بده.
براتون سعی میکنم یه جوری پیغام بدیم چیکار باید بکنیم.
تشکر میکنم. اگه وجود نداره خیلی ممنون. ببخشید تاثیرگذار شد.
خواهش. Let me translate to you. This is what I said in the past. The gentleman has been with his wife to the Linz Exhibition Center yesterday out of nowhere the day before. And they're expected to see me to tell them what to do and how the problem will be. Can you silence it, please? Yeah. Can you switch the microphone off for me? And they were expecting to come to Linz to see me that they can get a medical advice. Keshe Foundation, and I do not give medical advice in Austria or anywhere else. We have doctors which are appointed by Keshe Foundation, and we work through them. We advise the doctors, they understand it, and then translate it to a medical system. And I advise the gentleman, there is no way I can help him or advise him. And this goes back to our doctor in Iran, Dr. Barakpour, who they have to go through to get advice what to do. Keshe Foundation in Linz or anywhere else which we work out of the factories or whatever, we do not get involved in medical practices. We made that very sure. We learned that how they can use it against us from the, what I call the villains and the hooligans of Belgium, from the king downwards. So do not come to Linz and hope that you will see maybe me or somebody else and you maybe can use the system. The systems in Linz are not set to be used by anyone. And secondly, there's no training for it. Unless we run trials, which is done by the supervision of the doctors. And this gentleman, I told you, they just walk in and they expect something to be done. We do not do. The team, especially in the exhibition center, are not equipped or trained to use or do something. And even if we are in, we never get involved in what we call medical practices. We have doctors in the West, we have doctors in Iran, in other places that we consult and they advise. That's what I explained to you earlier on. People just walk in. And this cannot be because we're still making these temple jobs and people come in to see whatever. And coincidentally, I just left the building when this gentleman turned up. I received the telephone call that there are people here. We do not get involved in these kind of things anymore. We tried to help and we saw what they did. And we learned that the help has to come through the scientific world, through the doctors, and we trained them. Thank you very much. What's next?
Okay, next is Salamia has a hand up here.
Yes, Rick, thank you very much. Hello, Mr. Keshe. So nice to hear from you. Thank you very much for your teaching for today. I have a question related to European Union, because we are part from European Union. And exactly what do you think about problems of European Union in the future and how we can solve it after this conflict or during this conflict? what exactly are these problems? Energetic crisis, economic crisis, sanitary, I don't know. What do you mean exactly? Thank you very much.
We learn a lot, actually. We got to learn from European community without the influence of the British and Americans in it. European community, as a community of some 29, 30 nations, works beautifully. Is the ideal structure of independence but collective work. You Romanians have been benefited by it immensely. We've been given a 1 billion budget for part of the central component, what call it, IT section of the EU very recently in the past year or two. Shared, I think, with Czech Republic or one of the other nations. The European Union works perfectly, has worked perfectly, till is used as a tool by the British or by the Americans. And this is one of the reasons the rebel has been put out, the British were kicked out of it. Because now we see it. Europe, you got to live in Europe to understand the beauty of the European community. We drive from Portugal all the way to, let's say, Ukraine, to borders with Russian, some of the ex-Eastern Bloc, and we have no borders. Mainly use one currency. We don't see armies. We don't see all sorts of other things we see when you go in Africa from one nation to another. And before Corona, it was one free band. Now they stop you for Corona to check if you have a Corona certificate or whatever. Nowhere in the world we can do this. There's a lot to learn from the European Union, thanks to the French and the Germans and the Italians who instigated the beginning. But when you have these kind of conditions, centralization has brought some pitfalls. And it's very hard to keep such a big family in what you call it, in order in every direction. We see the present, there's a huge problems where the Ukrainian has risen for Europe, and Europe will learn from it. We are going to be short of food because Russia and Ukraine were one of the biggest producers of what was needed for food production, unknown, one of the major producers. We're going to be short of gases. We are going to be short of a specific gases which is needed for certain part of the industry. So we're going to see huge problems in the what we call in the West. And as I said to some of our top management of the Keshe Foundation, even in the past 24 hours, this has given an opportunity for Keshe Foundation to rise. What is becoming shortage is what is in our hand to show and receive massive investments to be able to replace, to bring in. And we are working on the biggest peace nation as one nation is a European state. And if we can achieve this in Asia, if we can achieve what has been achieved in Europe as one continent, one nation, we call it the European community, the same in Africa or in South America. We have this as a United States. We have 15 nations, speak one language with different accents or different combination of nationalities. The process is not bad. It has worked because methodically, step by step has been brought in, and when a new member has been brought in, they just didn't bring in new members. Because I was involved in this with the members of the European Community for Greece for a while as part of the Keshe Foundation, in the European Parliament and understanding it, became very wise how is done the German way, I call it. They just don't bring a nation to be a member of EU. They analyze the weaknesses in the structure of the country, economically, politically, financially, infrastructure, and a committee and committees work on this. Romania wants to come into EU, the roads, the health system, the other bits, and how it needs to be financed, how much finance you can bring other countries to be able, who's participating, what will this bring to the community? They saw a strength in the communication, computers, IT is part of the EU, so with Romania. So they boosted it. Romania is now one of the leading IT countries in EU. They cannot do the car manufacturing because the German is covering that. So they don't create a competition for themselves, but they allow the speciality in each group that is become integrated part of everything. It's a beautiful situation, but what we learned from Ukraine side is a lot of things, weaknesses in the structure of development. We saw the shortage of what we call chips. German car manufacturers, without Corona being in it, went into part-time production because they cannot get enough chips from outside. Now they're looking at to produce the chips themselves. That will take 15 years before system come together. We saw Clinton invested $6 billion in Blu-ray to bring it forward. And they invested in the chip manufacturing. And Europeans fell into this security that we always get it, and now they don't get it. German economy is suffering heavily because for a time and even now, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, and Audi and them lot are suffering heavily. They're affecting the economy of the EU because they don't have microchips. Each machine uses 20, 30 microchips, and then you have to get it, and there is no, and it's controlled by the Chinese and the Russians. So they're controlling the West. West has to, but this gives an opportunity to the new technology to come in. If you understand it, when I tell you it's time to, for us, if you understand the way now we develop the system control and the flight system, we can get by with if a chip. So we can give a replacement. The same in the agricultural side. But as I said, the time wasn't right for it, but now the time is right. Things are getting set for it to be done. But overall, you will suffer for maybe 10 years. And if the Ukrainian situation, as the Americans said, they're waiting to see a warfare for years to come, then there'll be years of shortages in Europe. On the food, we saw in Germany, was it last weekend, the weekend before, they announced on Sunday that from next Monday, the prices will go up between 20 and 50% in supermarkets. How much of it was carried out, how much is going to be filtered through next. Buying food and grocery in Europe is becoming, for some people, unaffordable. These pressures we'll see, but maybe it's the time to introduce the other part of the technology into this system. We have good connections within the governments in Europe in different ways, and we start exploring it now that we have hopefully sorted out part of the problems which was created unknowingly. And you will see it. The changes are there with the corona, with the shutdowns, everything else. It shows the weaknesses within the structure, and Germans and the French are excellent, especially Germans, in when they see a weakness, not to jump in, sit down and analyze and see how they can do it. how they can prevent part of it, even with the energy control, which was done by Russia. They took control of the Russian investments in Gazprom and the rest. The talk of nationalizing it or will be done or is getting done, that they protect the nation. Germans are very good at it. Americans jump in and then they think. Germans think and then they jump in. And Europe is pretty safe. And just give Germans and the French a few months, they'll find a lot of solutions to a lot of these things. There'll be some hardship in Europe without a shadow. We'll see shortage of food, shortages of some raw material, but as expected. As long as we don't get massive diseases spread in Europe in the next 12 months, say 2 years, well, it should be handled. But Europe is a perfect reputation of what the Keshe Foundation should achieve internationally, worldwide. Creating, because 1990s, when 80s, when I used to travel from Holland to France, going to Belgium or going to Italy, all these border checks, armies, and the rest is all gone. Because then with it, how many soldiers have gone, how much reduction in police, or what do you call it, military forces have come down. It's gone so low that Europe cannot put together an effective military force because it has no borders to protect for themselves. There are skirmishes of soldiers around Europe in different borders. We don't have more or less any full-time armies as the numbers we used to see 20 years ago. And that has created a condition of finding a solution peacefully. And Germans will find a solution, and they are working at it. We see it in the background. Any other question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Any other question? Shall we call it a day?
Maybe we can squeeze another couple of questions in here. We have Jefferson with the hand up here. Perhaps he can have a go at it, and we can wrap things up if you like, Mr. Keshe.
Hello, Rick.
Hello, Jefferson. We hear you. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. Good morning, everyone. This is Jefferson Rodrigues from Brazil. It's always an honor and a happiness to talk to you, Mr. Keshe. And I'd like just to clarify one doubt that I was talking to a friend. Is not related to your wonderful teaching today, but when we are talking about the field strength from the matter state to the plasma or to the nano state, I'm sure that you have already given it in one of your teachings in the past. So if you kindly can bring the light on this. You use it, for instance, for copper from 63 to 59, used around 8% of reduction in for plasma. And the iron, it's around 25%, as I understood so far. So we were wondering if there is a relation with the number of neutrons that are free from the difference of the atomic number that locks few the same amount of neutron. And there are some materials that we have many more available. Is there any correlation with this availability of neutron-free neutrons, or any kind of proportion. For instance, if you go to silver, that we have 107, what would be the reduction when we nano-coated it to create two different fields, so we can create another field from the element that we wish? If you kindly could clarify this proportion of reduction, if I made myself clear in this question. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Always thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a beautiful question. There is no reduction. No, there is no reduction. There are 2 points to understand, and it goes back to the fundamental understanding of the creation of the original plasma. The plasma, or the amount of the energy in the plasma in a plasmatic condition, which is on the Earth, is created in our atmosphere. When it comes in touch with the inertia field strength, will dictate how much of the plasma of one element stays active and some stays inactive. When we talk about inactive, it means linking up, that they do not participate in the total energy plasma, or that's in the matter state. But in a GANS state, we look at how the fields are shared with the others, that the minimum amount of energy as is needed, as like an isotope of an element is needed. But if you look at the GANS production and conversion, energy field effect from the matter state to a GANS, we find 30% sometimes reduction in the field strength, but the same material. This comes to understanding of field interaction. You can, when you have neutrons in the matter state as an isotope, because you have the electrons, or you have increasing number of the neutrons in the seed, it shows that there is something absorbing energy from the environment, or something releasing energy to the environment. And that release does not allow the holding on to the field energy of neutrons to create the nucleus. Neutrons are what we call in a state of balance fields in the present knowledge, but neutrons are connectors of the fields. When you don't have an extra neutron, means the protons are strong enough to hold on to, so you don't need the neutron to be the balancer. And we see some isotopes, because of this process, become what we call decay faster, because the ultimate goal is to bring a stability. In the nuclear industry, in the matter state, we talk about neutrons. In the new plasma nuclear technology, we speak about the energies. And those energies don't convert into isotopes without the presence of inertia, in a wave reference point. When you get a composite material, like in a bar, you have a 56, 54, 58 iron, whatever, 60, is because the inertia at the point where iron was created had the composite plasma in its presence, and we converted it into matter state. It's not that there was a short of energy. In a way, manifestation, which is magnetical, is all the same, but the gravitational is slightly different. So we get the presence of iron as matter isotopes, but different gravitational field within inside has kept the, what we call plasma at bay, and then transformation into matter state as isotopes. We look at the isotopes, totally different in the plasma technology, field strength combination. One is field, one is the interaction of two fields when the matter state is completed. And you don't need to have always the same neutron, because the inertia itself is a composite of different fields, so it changes some of it. It's like you cannot, for example, let's say, find iron 40, but in other places in the universe you can find iron 40. Because the inertia at that point, magnetic field strength, allows to create a matter which has the behavior of iron, but carries not enough even proton and electron in it to make the 56. It's a field manifestation because you work deeper inside than outside. You're much stronger, you're much closer to the center of the plasma than you're outside, depending on the dimension of the release of magnetopole fields. This is part of understanding of creating composites. First as a plasma and then changing them to matter state. We have achieved that, and we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago about agriculture, where the fields, in a field can grow corn, wheat, and rice, and each one receives its own field. So the way we create a composite CH bond and amino acid connection bond with the CH to allow a new configuration for the protein of the seed. You got to understand the totality. And I can talk about this for and teach you for years to come. Creation of composite and isotopes without even having a single neutron in the nucleus. The example of it is hydrogen itself. You have no neutron, but you still have a state matter. You're not in tritium. You're not in deuterium. H2O. How come? What is the neutron here? Because the environment of Earth allows the behavior of water, but doesn't allow the behavior and manifestation of another water unless the condition is right for hydrogen to link up with oxygen. You look at the plasma first, and then you look at the inertia interaction, creation of matter state. You can create plasma strength of the gold without the single neutron when you convert it into matter state. If you manage to increase the strength of the protons to hold that structure of the gold, it'll have a different dimension. And that's the only way you see it as a dimension. We've seen it, we know this knowledge with the hydrogen, tritium, and what do you call it, deuterium. You don't need nitrogen or neutron to create a matter entity condition. should have seen that in production of CO2 in gas boxes. We create the condition of a gas without any gases by interaction of the field. We don't create the material, we create a condition of it, field strength, and it absorbs. Then it changes. It's literally, if you understand it, it's like a moisturizer, what call it, absorbing moisture from the room. When you buy the machine, you don't feel any moisture in the room, but you see water gathering in the pot. Dehumidifies. It's the same process. You create that condition for the moisture as a vapor or as a gas in the room to convert into the matter state. You create that condition of it in the system. You just blow it through, and that's called converts it to the right temperature. You can do the same thing in the world of the plasma without the presence of neutron. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Question.
One question you could answer for, get it straight here. I can find it. Just find it in YouTube here. There's a question about the MAGRAV unit, the Universal Body Enhancement Unit being available in Australia. They're wondering if there might be some date or place that might be accepted in Australia.
We have one doctor who tried to do it outside Australia and is still struggling with it, as far as we know. Or he's trying to get it in some sort of sorted out. And nothing at the moment. With the present government in Australia, we try to keep as much as possible away till situations are much sorted out. We have a plan, yes, we'd like to put MAGRAV systems in the boundary nations of Australia, but not in Australia. This is the discussion and the plan by the Australian knowledge seekers and the people in that. They know exactly what I'm talking about. These discussions were going there for 2 years.
Okay, and another question from Mara Sonia, I think Italian. How can we start to use your, calls it a depuration system of water that I think you have just proposed to the Italian state? Does that ring a bell? Some maybe a water decontamination system?
Yes, yes. This is a technology we have offered and tested. And, it needs time. Italians have to find a solution around it. The report has been given, and we're working in the background. We might hear something about the next few weeks, months. But you got to understand, it's not just Italy. The problem is worldwide, the contamination. So, if you understand the gas production, some of the process of the gas production can create decontamination, actually desalination more than anything else. But you have to understand what you're doing. And then decontamination, absorption of, extraction of, and all sorts of things from the water. Shall I call it a day?
Okay, sure. Yes.
Thank you very much for today, and hopefully we meet again in another place, and hopefully we find a solution for a lot of things with the work of the Keshe Foundation and knowledge skills. Very much, Rick. Thanks for today, and see you hopefully very soon.
All right, very good, Mr. Keshe. Thank you once again for another amazing Knowledge Seekers Workshop, number 428 here today on Thursday, April 14th, 2022. Anyone has any questions left over, you can bring them into next week's workshop. And speaking of next week, we have the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace and Justice coming up on, let's see, the Tuesday, April 19th of next week. And people are welcome to join with the members of the Universal Council to be part of participating in that workshop. That starts at 4 p.m. Central European Summer Time. Okay, that's all I can think of for announcements right now. Thanks to everyone for being here today and for your questions and comments. And of course, a big thanks to Mr. Keshe for always being here for us for these workshops continuously every week for the last 428 weeks in a row. Okay, thank you, everyone. And we'll go out with, I think I will play one of my favorites, the Universal Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit music version. I'll try to find it here. There we go. Okay, bye everyone. See you in the next public workshop.